All right, everybody, welcome back to Bench Talk. This is our third episode as part of Empty the Bench. You can check out our digital show. And joining us now, he writes for Yahoo Sports NBA. He also has RealGM, CelticsBlog, and the Front Office Show podcast. Keith Smith, thanks for joining me, Keith.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
So there's a lot to get into. We'll talk about the Orlando bubble. We'll talk about the civil unrest and everything that's going on with the NBA and the platforms. But let's start with the Orlando bubble. So players have until June 24th to say if they're going to play or they're not going to play. So what's your thoughts on the Orlando campus, first of all?
Yeah, I worked for Walt Disney World for nearly 20 years, so I am very familiar with the spot here in Florida, and I think the players they're going to be well taken care of. I think the plan is very comprehensive. When you get all the way down to playing cards will be recycled after each use, it's clear the level of thought and effort and care that went into this plan, and I agree with what Michelle Roberts said. Outside of a true hermetically sealed bubble, it's probably going to be as safe as you can make it. So I think players will be well taken care of, and I do think it's going to be as safe as it can possibly be.
So being subject to 10 or 14-day quarantines, and having to deal with all this, you mentioned playing cards being recycled. They have video games. They have lawn games. They have everything. Is this a summer camp for players, or is this actually what the NBA players were expecting?
Yeah, a bit of both, maybe. I think it would be they're kind of showing up to do some work, but they want to make sure that they're able to enjoy themselves on their downtime, which there will be some of while they're there. And I think the idea behind making sure all these other things are available to the players is because, how do I put this? Because the players can't leave, they want to make sure that they have lots to do while they're at the properties. So they want to make sure that they're well taken care of. So that's why they've added so many of the other things to make sure that these guys have plenty to do while they're on property at Walt Disney World, in addition to, the minor task of playing basketball and trying to win a championship.
So we saw the team hotels. It was broken down by Woj and Shams and all them who broke it. So we saw the Grand Destintino, the Grand Floridian, and the Yacht Club, all the hotels. What do you make of the setup? We saw the maps. What do you make of that setup for the different teams?
Yeah, what they did was, so Grand Destino is the newest of those three. It's a tower that was built as part of the Coronado Springs Resort. So it's not a resort itself, it's a building at that property, at that resort. And it's beautiful. It only opened last fall. So it has not been open very long, especially when you consider since mid-March, no one's been in it because it's been shut down since the property's been shut down. So it's really, really nice. It's a really beautiful setup. It was built to attract high-end convention business and the like, so that's what it was built for. And then you have the Grand Floridian, that's Walt Disney World's flagship resort. So it's clearly a high-end luxury hotel. And then the Yacht Club is smaller, but it's also considered to be a deluxe resort. Very nice. It's attached to the best property the best pool on property at Walt Disney World. So it's absolutely gorgeous. So all three hotels are pretty comparable, but what they clearly set up for was Grand Destino to be the long-term hub at Coronado Springs, where teams that are expected to be there the longest or in the playoffs, the longest will be housed there. And I was told from someone with Disney that if one of the other teams makes an unexpected run, that they may be asked to move properties as well, just to kind of allow them to then turn those rooms back over, get them back in the inventory for paying guests.
Talking to Keith Smith of Yahoo Sports, NBA reporter. So all individuals have to wear masks except during meals, individual rooms, when outside, and more than 6 feet apart, all the typical coronavirus situations. Do you think it's going to be difficult for some of these guys to actually comprehend being inside the bubble and having to wear the masks and dealing with all those situations?
Yeah, I'm going to guess no. What's going to be hard is it's extremely hot here right now in Central Florida. It's, we're in the 90s every single day. By the time they get here, we'll probably be into the mid 90s, and it's extremely humid. So as a Central Florida resident myself, I don't like wearing my mask, but I do it whenever I'm out and about because that's what you should do. It's the unselfish thing to do for people. So, but yeah, as far as it goes with the players, I think they're going to understand the importance and the need to wear the mask. So I think you'll see them with the masks on, and I don't think it's going to be all that big of an issue.
So the other interesting thing, and I saw this over the past couple of days, Keith, is the ring track technology, the rings or the temperature tracking they want to use so that they can keep track of this information. What do you make of possibly the players wearing some kind of ring technology?
Yeah, it's going to be interesting now. A lot of people are saying, oh, this is some Big Brother stuff, and these guys aren't going to wear them. And it is optional. They don't have to wear these. But I think a lot of them will opt into it. We've seen NBA players be very receptive to wearing things in the past that, will help collect data. And I think if the guys are serious about, I'm not going off property anyway, why not wear the ring and maybe help collect some data and help keep everybody healthy? So I think you'll see a number of players and personnel opt into wearing the rings.
So also hearing the 35-person traveling parties, that was another number I heard. So I guess you can have athletic trainers, strength and conditioning coaches, equipment managers. What is the typical number that usually travels with a NBA team usually?
Somewhere between 50 and 60 on the low end, and somewhere between 80 on the high end, and then everybody's around 80 to 100 when you get into the postseason, because you've got security folks, you've got PR people, you've got equipment managers. The coaching staffs are generally large. By that point, you might have some additional coaches available too, because the G League season is over. So those coaching staffs may be up. You may have the two-way players with you at all times and the like. So yeah, this is a much smaller staff than what they're going to be used to traveling with, especially when you consider roughly half of it is devoted to the players themselves. Most teams are going to bring 17 players because they want to be protected there. So, you can get to 35 almost just between players and coaches and trainers. And, there were some mandates in there of folks you have to have come with you as well. So it's that 35 number. It starts to go really rapidly. I highly encourage, if anybody has an athletic subscription, Fred Katz, who covers the Washington Wizards, did a really good breakdown for what the Wizards staff might look like. And I think it's very similar to what the decision points that a lot of NBA teams are going to make to get to that 35-person limit.
So with a lot of the concerns in the past couple of days, MLB spring training sites have been shut down due to all the issues with the coronavirus testing. We saw some NHL and NFL sites in Florida, actually in the Tampa area, get shut down. Do you see that there could be any possible concerns with coronavirus uptakes from what we've seen in MLB and NFL and NHL?
Yeah. Unfortunately, I think yes. Especially considering this isn't a true bubble. They are not, requiring the Walt Disney World cast members. That's Disney lingo for staff or employee to stay in the bubble at this time. They can come and go. So I think one of the challenges that you have there is there's worry because we're in Orange County. That's the county that Disney. Now Disney's not really in Orange County. I mean, it kind of is. It more or less is. It straddles two counties. It straddles Orange and Osceola counties. So it's in the kind of almost extreme southwestern portion of Orange County. But it is one of the things with that is, those numbers are up. It was 17.2%, I believe, yesterday, or something in that range, which is very high, and they continue to climb. And that's worrisome. And that's not the case numbers are up because the testing is way up, but it's the percent positive that's really scary. And our governor, or not our governor, our mayor of Orange County, we have county mayors in Florida. That's a little bit different than some other places, but they're county mayors. He reinstituted masks as mandatory. You have to wear them when you're outside of the home, starting today. That was made mandatory. So hopefully that'll help bring the numbers back in line. But if those numbers continue to climb with a lot of the issues we're seeing around the Central Florida area now in the state as a whole, that's going to be something the NBA is going to be watching very, very closely.
Now, I heard rumors about the Orlando complex, where the Magic play. That's not part of this, right?
No, that's about 20 miles away from Walt Disney World property. That's in downtown Orlando. It's not going to be a part of this at all.
So talking about some of the other issues, I saw you talking about the two-way contracts. That was another issue that came up. I guess, past the date line. What's going on with the two-way contracts?
Yeah, so what they're going to do for the two-way players is that the deadline to sign players from a two-way contract or to a two-way contract has long since passed. That passed back in January, but they're going to reopen that window for a short period of about a week. And what the idea on that is they're going to allow teams to convert current two-way players if they want to a standard contract that will make them eligible to play in the playoffs and the like here, and then they can add a player to replace them on a two-way contract. So they've kind of reopened that window, if you will, to bring in some extra guys. And this is going to allow some of these teams to have some people available that they might not have had otherwise coming into Walt Disney World.
Now, other issues with the bubble, we're seeing, have you heard any big names like NBA stars that don't want to go down to the bubble? Have you heard that at all yet?
I haven't heard anybody say that they don't want to come. I've heard lots of players. They've all been widely reported on. Kyrie Irving, Avery Bradley, Dwight Howard, Justice Winslow, as recently as yesterday, expressed concern about coming, and their concerns are vary. Some are safety concerns. Some are losing focus and momentum on the Black Lives Matter protests that are going around and the movement that's happening in our country right now. And then some are, of course, a combination of both. So there's definitely guys who, kind of have check the all of the above box as far as the concerns go. So it's going to be interesting to see ultimately, how that plays out. And the players have until the 24th to tell their teams, I'm not coming, I don't want to play. They're not going to be punished in any way. They will have salary withheld. It's 192.6 of their salary. So but that's the 92.6 is the regular season prorated plus playoffs. So that's how they get to that number. So that's what they will lose out of their salary if they don't come to Walt Disney World and play, and their teams will be able to replace them to bring in somebody different to come in to play. So, but they won't be punished. They won't have their contract voided or any kind of suspension or anything like that. So, and I think the NBA and the teams are very understanding of this is a very intensely personal decision for all players to make, whether that be the safety issue or the social issues and those kind of things. And I'll delve into personal opinion here. I think, each player needs to make the best decision for themselves. No one can tell them what is the right decision because it is a completely personal decision. All I want is for them to have all the information available. They do have that now. They seem to have a pretty good understanding of what the financial cost is, what the safety precautions are in Florida. With the one piece that's still missing, which is the NBA openly owns that they're working on, is what can they do to give the players a platform and a forum to express support and push for change and all that with the Black Lives Matter movement, which finally has momentum in our country for the first time in hundreds of years. So if a player chooses this isn't the right thing for me and my family, for me to go, no one should get on them and rip them for that because it's a completely personal choice. These are completely unprecedented times. This isn't, things are moving along as normal and somebody just decides, I don't want to play anymore. If that was the case, then you've got every right to ask questions. But in the time and place we are right now in the world, no one should be criticizing these players for any decision that they make.
I found it very interesting with the Kyrie comments, also with the Dwight Howard comments as well. What did you make of the comments of Kyrie Irving? And also, were his comments kind of taken out of context when he possibly said he wanted to start his own league? Is that true or not?
Yeah, I don't know if that's true or not. I'm not on that text group. I haven't seen any kind of screenshots from that text group or anything like that. So I have no idea if he actually said that or not. When the reporting is what it is, I tend to believe it. But very quickly, several Nets players pushed back and said that was not what he said. That wasn't said at all. Or was that, how many times have you texted a friend and said something silly off the cuff? And, was it kind of a joke and, or said in the, heat of the moment or those kind of things, and you don't really mean it. As far as his comments that he made on the, somewhere between 80 and 100 player call that they had roughly a week or so ago, I tend to agree with the reporting, and I had a player say something very similar to me is I don't necessarily care for him as the messenger, but I care about the message. And Kyrie loses some guys when he says things like there's something fishy going on, or he tends to take things a little bit farther. But I covered Kyrie Irving for 2 years with the Boston Celtics, and one thing I can say is his time with the Celtics covering him was exhausting. He's a tough guy to cover. You have a hard time sometimes parsing what he means. You can ask him a very simple basketball question, which can turn into a 2-minute long answer that's got nothing to do with anything to do with basketball where you can ask him a bigger, wide-ranging world matters question and get a I don't know, I'm not sure answer out of him. It kind of just comes and goes by the day. But one thing he is not is he's not an idiot. He's not stupid. He says some crazy things, but I don't think he's a crazy person. His point with raising those questions was, these are the things we need to talk about. These are the things we need to understand. These are the discussions we need to have. And I think those were important. I think that was embraced by the players as, I think it was, we're all feeling this, and he stepped up and was the one who said it.
So going back to the Orlando bubble, the most interesting thing I saw was I guess you can call it the anonymous line or the Batphone.
Yeah.
That they're
the tip line. Yeah.
The tip line. So what do you make of the Batphone, so to speak? And we don't know who this line is going to go to. And do you think players are really going to snitch on one another?
Yeah, I like to believe it rings direct to Adam Silver, and someone's going to call him at 3 a.m. and wake him up and be like, I saw LeBron, and then they'll put it together. Wait, you're playing them tomorrow in game 6 of a playoff series or something like that. I think it's done with all good intentions for people to understand. I can't wait till the number leaks, people from their homes all the way across the country are calling in tips of, I saw so-and-so, and it's like they're, 100 miles away or, thousands of miles away and those kind of things. But I think it's one of those good intention things. I don't think it'll get used seriously at any point. I just don't think that's something, anybody's going to be doing. But if it does get used, I hope the NBA has, quality people answering that phone and monitoring and then investigating those concerns versus, just running off and doling out punishment because of, random calls. Because, everybody immediately made the joke of, well, Chris Paul is going to be on there, because he blamed the untucked jersey. He'll be out there, with his say. But I honestly don't think it's going to be a thing.
Now, I guess we could talk a little bit on the court because we've been talking a lot off the court. Now, eventually when we get back on the court and we get through all the phases, do you really think that we can judge this season as a real season? Is there going to be an asterisk? Oh, if LeBron and the Lakers, let's say they win the championship, do you really think people are going to take it legitimately if the Lakers win?
I think it's going to depend. If you like the team that wins, you're going to say it's legitimate. If you hate the team that wins, you're going to say there's an asterisk. That's just the way sports fandom works. In my opinion, no, there should not be an asterisk on this year. All these teams are coming from basically the same place. They all haven't played in the same amount of time, give or take a day or two, just depending on where they were in their schedule when the season went on pause. So I think everybody's coming back. Now, if there is a case of, we get to the conference finals or the finals and an entire team is wiped out because, God forbid, a coronavirus outbreak happens and one entire team goes down, well then, yeah, maybe it's a little bit different then and you got to think of it differently. But I look at it as when the Spurs won in 1999, nobody screamed and yelled, well, there was that lockout season and Pop and Duncan, we can't really count that one. Nobody says that. I think what we more have is a case with this thing is it'll be a footnote. It'll always be Team Max won. Yeah, remember that weird year that was played at Walt Disney World? What a weird thing. 20 years from now, somebody will look at that. But I don't think anybody's going to go in and start claiming it's not a legitimate championship, nor should they.
Free agency, October 18th. So do you think that's going to be quick by the time this gets to the end here? Or do you think the NBA is trying to quickly move along and just trying to get everything going because they know they're on a deadline to try to keep everything between this season and next season going?
Yeah, that's part of it, right? It is they want to get moving because they want to start next season sometime in December. It's probably likely to be mid to late December when they start next season. But that's you got to keep things moving, and it's going to be funny to see how this ultimately goes because what you're going to have is you're going to have the finals, potentially Game 7 on October 13th. Then the draft on October 16th, and then right into free agency on October 18th. It's going to be crazy. You're going to, and this is all going on while football season's happening too. So you're just going to be, if you're a sports fan, you're going to be, going crazy with this. And, if baseball can get their heads out of their whats and actually play baseball, then we'll see, because they'll be in the middle of the playoffs at that point. So October is going to has the potential to be an absolutely wild sports month.
Keith Smith, Yahoo Sports NBA analyst, joining me. And Keith, thanks for your time, and we'll talk another time.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.